Alright. Are we good? We hope. Maybe? And what do you say? I think so. Okay, good. Alright. Well, that's annoying. Anyway. So yeah. Talos Warrior, very much gonna fit the kind of deck that I'm working on for that. Yeah, whatever. So yeah, I literally want stuff that says it can't be blocked. Not going for shadow, not going for flying, not going for any of that stuff like that. One, two, three, four. Oh, okay. Oh, there's only a few cards left. Talos Explorer. When it enters, look at target player's hand. Uh, 2 mana for 1/1 flyer. I mean, it's fine, but the come into play ability is because it's a enters ability. It is a thing that you can deal with. You can return it back to your hand regularly. You can it can die and you can bring it back and you can return it back to hand and whatever else. So you can keep using its ability one way or another multiple times. And that means that you can look at multiple people's hands. And that can give you, and the thing is, you don't need to do that every turn. You can do that like once every like half a dozen turn cycles or whatever. And go, or you can go, okay, this time I'm gonna look at your hand. This time I'm gonna look at your hand. This time I'm gonna look at your hand. This time, and then take a couple turns off. Look at yours. Look at yours. Look at yours. Take some time off. Look at yours. Look at yours. Look at yours. Uh, Denizen of the Deep. Denizen of the Deep is kind of adorable because it's 8 mana for an 11/11. No trample or anything, sadly. But Giant Ocean Beast, when it enters, return each other creature you control to its owner's hand. If you have no creatures in play, for whatever reason, maybe this and your commander are the only creatures in your deck. In theory, that's an option. Not a terrible creature. Again, there's ways to make this a lot better than it first appears. Piracy? Piracy is silly. Until end of turn, you may tap lands you don't control for mana. Spend this mana only to cast spells. In other words, you cannot use it to activate abilities or whatever. But you can use them to cast spells. If I can somehow pin down a copy of Piracy, I just might throw it into my mono blue ramp deck. Basically, as a ritual. And if this was more useful before they eliminated mana burn. Because now there's no drawback to just tapping your lands and going, oh, okay. Well, I will tap all my lands and then you don't get anything. Sleight of Hand. Sees play in many formats. Look top 2 cards of your library. Put one in your hand, the other on the bottom of your library. If you're doing some kind of combo deck shenanigans, that's when you want Sleight of Hand. I generally do not recommend this for most typical commander decks. But if you're doing if you're doing combo shenanigans or something of that nature, um, yeah, I can see that. And then temporal manipulation. Take an extra turn after this one. Okay. Are you playing with extra turn shenanigans? Yeah, and there's there's even like the mystery booster for 2 version is under $5. Okay. Oh, I have to overpay for it. I have to pay $10. Okay. I'm going to have to plow through these real quick because it's almost 11 o'clock here. Ideally, I want to already be done. That's not happening anytime soon. I'm going to have to go through these quickly. Lurking Night Stalker. 2 mana for a 1/1 when it attacks, gets +2/+0 till end of turn. Can you get extra attack steps in? Can you duplicate the trigger? If either of those answers is yes, this thing gets really big really fast, and you can use a card like Escape Tunnel because it starts off as a 1/1. Escape Tunnel. Cool. And now I just attack and attack and attack and attack and attack, and you're dead. Wait, what? Yeah, you're dead. Return of the Night Stalkers. How many Night Stalkers are there? There are 12. Only a couple of them. Sort by release date. Nope, Ascending. So Shimmy Night Stalker came out first. Then your trio from Mirage that merged in a Spirit of the Night. Spirit of the Night, sadly, is not a Night Stalker. Then 7 different ones from Portal's Second Age. And then Fen Stalker. And that was it. But Night Stalker is a creature type. Anything that has all creature types, etc., etc., etc. Then destroy all swamps you control. Cross your fingers nobody has an Urborg in play or Blanket of Night. As long as that's the case, you're fine-ish. However, you're still going to lose a few lands. Also, it's not basic swamps, it's swamps. So you could reanimate a bunch of stuff and lose probably 2/3 of your mana. Might still be worth it if you're building around that, but with only 12 actual Night Stalkers in the game, I'd say iffy to say the least. Probably wouldn't bother. Would play the Lurking long before I played the Return. Burrito Night Stalker. 5 mana for a 3/2. When it enters, you may have target opponent discard a card. Cool. Again, Flicker, Reanimate, etc. because enter abilities. It's an enters, so Panharmonicon's an option. This is the kind of discard card I don't mind as much, which feels weird. Stuff like Duress, Thoughtseize, Him to Torak, not fond of. Something like this, I'm a little more willing to accept playing. Foul Spirit. 3 mana for a 3/2 flyer. When it enters, sack a land. Honestly, for a for a at that point relatively aggressively costed creature, that's not the worst drawback I've seen attached. Plus, it's an enters trigger. It's only going to happen the one time. Um, it's fine. The problem is, even at that point, it died to stuff like shock or fire ambush if you want to stick with P2A, etc. But it wasn't like it's it's better than it looked on. It's I think it's better than it looks on paper. It's not great, but it's okay. You should be able to do better than that nowadays. Dark Offering. Back in the day, black removal really had a lot of trouble dealing with other black cards. You didn't have murder. You were looking at cards like Terror and Dark Banishing and similar, or stuff that just like drained stuff outright. So Dark Offering, if you compare this to, I'm gonna say if you compare this to Dark Banishing, uh, you allow regeneration, but regeneration didn't exist during the portal in any of the portal sets. If you're doing that, you're more looking at cards that, when it dies, shuffle it back, put it back on top of your deck or whatever. Like that Angel we covered earlier. Um, so 1 black plus 2 for Dark Banishing. So probably double black for destroy target non-black creature outright. And then 4 to gain 3 life. It's about right. Um, it's not for what it's trying to do at that cost. It's not the problem is like at 6 mana you should be doing more than just killing a creature, and not just kill a creature that has to follow a certain restriction. Um, at 6 mana you should be going like the worst case scenario is cards like Hex, destroys 6 target creatures. No, just no. Play any of these 3 Night Stalkers before Dark Offering. Night Stalker Engine. 5 mana for a 3 toughness creature with power equal to the number of creature cards in your graveyard. Okay. So, you really want this to have, because it's only got 3 toughness, you really want this to have, you want a decently sized graveyard. It doesn't, notice that it doesn't actually do anything with your graveyard, it just looks at it. But now, what do we look at Mortivore? 2 black plus 2. Number of creature cards in all graveyards, and black to regenerate. Basically took Night Stalker Engine, made both its stats reference how many creature cards are in all graveyards, but it affects all graveyards, and black to regenerate. If you're looking for Mortivore, like if you're looking for more Mortivores, I mean, obviously you start off with Mortivore first. Look for however many of those you can find. Night Stalker Engine is probably at the bottom of the list. It's probably still on your list. Moaning Spirit, no. You've got 2/2s for 3, 2/2 flyers for 3 by now in black, even at common. You're probably even getting 2/3s or 3/2s by now. You can probably even get a 3/3 flyer with a little bit of a drawback. In fact, I know there's at least one. Raiding Night Stalker. Much better card. Our steeds need food, water, stabling. Theirs just need prey. I thought that said stabbing at first. Yeah. Play the Raiding Night Stalker before. Yeah, like bring these other Night Stalkers up here. Prowling Night Stalker cannot be blocked except by black creatures. 4 mana was something better than Fear, because Fear says it can only be blocked by black or artifact creatures. Artifact creatures did not exist in the Portal sets. So that was an option. So they just turned on second except by other black creatures, which suddenly makes it better. You want to go and do some kind of like aggro shenanigans where it's hard to block in the first place? Yeah, this. But be aware, black, as I've mentioned before, probably the most commonly played. Black and green are like the two most commonly played colors in the game. Black has just got powerful, and green has got all sorts of like. It starts off with ramp and landfall, and just goes from there. Predatory Night Stalker. This is basically the same cost as the Brutal Night Stalker, except the Predatory makes target opponent sacrifice a creature. Yeah. Best Night Stalker I've seen so far. Dakmore Scorpion. 2 mana for a 2/1 Scorpion. A Scorpion this big you won't find curled up in your boot. Maybe around your boot, but not in it. It's fine. 1 black mana, you can get 1/1 Death Touchers. You can get, I think you can get I know you can get 1/3 Death Touch for 3 mana. Unless you're specifically looking at black vanilla creatures. No. Chorus of Woe. 1 black sorcery. Creatures you control get +1/+0 till end of turn. If this was an instant, so many people like this would jump ahead. As such, being a sorcery, again, portals, everything that's not a creature or land is a sorcery. This is not actually bad. Again, the more tokens you can generate, the better an effect like this becomes. So if you're building Thrall Tribal, or Zombie Tribal, or Skeleton Tribal, or whatever, anything that can make a bunch of tokens and go thunk and just attack, you won't get any toughness boost, but that's still plenty. Kiss of Death. 6 mana, 4 damage to target opponent or planeswalker. You gain 4 life. You can do better. I was going to say you could do better, but I'm not entirely sure that's true. Oh, yeah. Soul Spike? 4 damage to any target and gain 4 life. 7 mana instant. So an extra mana but instant and an ACC. And can hit anything. That suggests to me that this should be any target. This feels close to the right cost. But no, I think if I'm trying to burn my opponent's face off in mono black, this might not be enough because players do start off with 40 life. I think a deck like that, I would want to start off with healthy sized, not necessarily big, but healthy sized black creatures with haste. I think that's where I would want to start. Vampiric Spirit. Look at this. 4 mana for 4/3. When it enters, you lose 4 life. Compare that to the Moaning Spirit. It's an extra black twice the size, more than twice the toughness. When it enters, you lose 4 life. Okay, this is a much better creature. Yeah, you play that over the Moaning Spirit for sure. Dakmar Plague. um, yeah. If I'm looking to burn again, if I'm looking to burn my opponent's faces off, Dakmar Plague, 5 mana, 3 damage to each creature and each player, is a lot better. Because this is, I'm dealing, sure, I'm taking 3 as well, but I'm dealing 9 to my opponents. And killing a bunch of the smaller, some of the smaller and low win mid range stuff for 5 mana. This is not unreasonable. If you're going a burn style deck, yeah, that's good. Blood Curdling Scream. This is Howl from Beyond as a sorcery. Obviously, you play Howl first. If you are... Honestly, if your deck is basically just... Oh, you know where you can put this? If you're doing some kind of infect scheme, if you've got any kind of creature that's got trample, let's say, and infect, or or toxic, or there's some way to give poison counters, and you've got trample, or it's otherwise hard to block in the first place. Blood Curdling Scream can just outright kill an opponent. Abyssal Night Stalker. When attacks and isn't blocked, if hanging player discards a card. Yeah. It's easy to make this unblockable. I would turn around and spread this around instead of concentrating on one person, unless there's one person I really had to knock down a bit. Hilariously, it's when it attacks and isn't blocked, it doesn't have to deal damage. So your opponents can go, okay, Fog. Cool. Discard another card. Wait, what? Discard another card. You're not blocking. Yeah, this actually gives Turbo Fog style decks a headache. Dakmar Bat. Again, 1 less mana than the Moaning Spirit, 1 less power, and that's it. But nowadays you can get a 1/1 flyer in black at common with something else going on. What's that bat that's in standard right now? Deep Cavern Bat. Which, sure, it's an uncommon, but it's the same size, same cost. Flying, lifelink, and essentially a Thoughtseize that lasts until the bat disappears. Yeah. So, yeah, Deep Cavern Bat, it's like, Dakmar Bat is like, that's what I want to be when I grow up. If you are playing Bat Tribal, you might end up having this, but you should be able to play it without having to run into that. Rain of Daggers. Rain of Daggers, I like. Oh my god. Oh, I would not say no to the Mystery Booster 2 version. I actually kind of like the way that looks a bit better. Destroy all your opponent's creatures. Opponent apostrophe S. For each creature destroyed this way, you lose 2 life. So, Blow up each creature your uh, a specific opponent controls. It does target the opponent. You lose 2 life for each creature destroyed this way. Yeah, there's ways around that. It's a targeted board wipe, so that's kind of fun. Dakmore Sorceress, 6 mana. This is basically Nightmare with a fixed toughness of 4, which means she survives fire ambush. But realistically, people aren't going to spend damage removal spells on her. They're going to spend like swords, plowshares, or whatever. Oh, you got 4 toughness? Okay, I'll use something a little stronger. It's fine. Cruelly Decked. They they took um they took Diabolic Edict and put in a portal, but because Diabolic Edict was a sorcery, they had, or because it was an instant, they had to make it in a sorcery, so Cruel Edict came out. How many edicts is enough? Target opponent sacrifices a creature. Although, the hilarious thing is, its original wording says you destroy the creature. But the Oracle text says they sacrifice it. And when they went and put it in 9th edition, they said sacrifice. I would have found it more entertaining for it to still be a destroy effect. Like, destroy target creature an opponent controls of their choice. Or something like that. I think that would have been more entertaining. Ravenous Rats. Everybody's going to play it in Rats. When it enters, target opponent discards a card. It's been printed in Urza's Destiny. It's been printed in Invasion, made up to 10th edition. Made into the dual decks, made into M13. And I think M13, yeah, M13 was the last regular set, because I'm not counting the dual decks. But yeah, it's had a few printings. Probably everybody and their dog and their cat and their rat has a copy floating around somewhere. It's still fine. Swarm of Rats, on the other hand. Power equals the number of rats you control. Its toughness stays at 1. Note that in this set, there's like 3 cards that go, I have a fixed toughness, but I have power based on a number of 3, 4? I think it might be 4. 1, 2, 3. Oh, 3. Okay. If I have a copy, if I can get my hands on a copy easily enough, I might throw it into my Re-Ratomator deck just to have like a big creature, but yeah. I'm not gonna go crazy trying to get my hands on one. Ancient Craving. This is a 40 life format. 4 mana, draw 3, lose 3 life. Okay. I will draw 3 cards. Oh, I go from 27 to 24. Going from 5 to 2 might be a bit hairy, but still, I think most people, even somebody like Saffron Olive, would go, yeah, I'll do it because it's 3 cards. Alright, what do we got for red? Ogre Berserker. 5 mana for 4-2 with haste. I believe nowadays you can get a 4-4 with haste for 5. Yeah, you can. There's a couple. I think you can even get a 5-5 with haste. I don't remember if it's common or uncommon. Definitely less than rare. So yeah. Uh, are you playing Ogre Tribal? You might need to. Obsidian Giant. um, yeah. 5 mana for a 4/4. If I have any of these, they're basically, oh, Blah makes a 4/4, a vanilla 4/4 token. Okay, here you go. Uh, am I building vanilla dot deck? Obsidian Giant is probably going in, or something else that's the same. There might be a couple of options for that. Um, it's fine. Ogre Warrior, you should be able to get a 3/4 or 4. Like one of those numbers should be a 4 by now. You might be able to get a 3/4 or 4/3. But I mean, it's like imagine this without having that can't block ability. 3 little goblins enjoying their brew. One bumped an ogre, and then there were 2. Aw. So, yeah. You should, again, you should be able to get a 4/3 by now for that. Um, Creature type ogre. Going ogre tribal, I could see that making it in, although I would try and find something else I can put in instead, but I might have to. Cunning Giant. If it's unblocked, you may have it assign its combat damage to a creature. Oh! So, this is 6 mana for 4/4, which sounds like a lot, and it kind of is. It's a giant. If it's unblocked, instead of dealing its damage to the opponent, you can go, oh, by the way, that takes it instead. What? Um, it's compare this to Thorn Elemental. You may have this assign its combat damage as though it weren't blocked. That's usually the ability you're going to see. Instead of dealing combat damage to the creature in front of it, it's going to deal it to the opponent. This is the opposite. This is, instead of dealing damage to my opponent, I'm going to deal it over here. I would, yeah. If I'm building with cards like if I'm building a, if I'm building a, if I'm building a, oh, if you give this, death touch, that gets really dumb really fast. Because that ends up going, if this creature is unblocked, you may destroy target creature and defend player controls. What? Yeah. So find a way to make it unblockable, which is not that hard. Goblin Cavaliers. I like this better than it appears. It's a vanilla creature, but at this point, Grey Ogre was the standard. 1 red, 2 other, for 2/2 with a not really supported creature type. Well, now now in Portal's Second Age, it got an extra point of power and a supported creature type. Still doesn't do anything in of itself, but it's suddenly like a lot better than it first appears. You can do better than this now, but for the age of the card, this is actually a really good card. If maybe a common goblin stack, maybe. Jagged Lightning. I think we may have talked about this during Urza Saga. 5 mana, 3 damage this way and this way. I'm sorry. If I'm paying a 5 mana sorcery, I'm playing with. I'm going to kill a thing. I have Fissure. I have Lava Flow. I have Introduction to Annihilation. I have Aftershock. I am going to kill a thing. I'm not going to muck around with damage. Unless I specifically have reason for specifically wanting to deal damage. What would that be? Oh, I don't know. Maybe I'm playing with Brash Taunter and Stuffy Doll or something like that. Because it doesn't have to, it can be any 2 creatures you want. So do that with Torbrand out, and suddenly your opponent could be taking 3, 5, 7, potentially 14 damage if I'm doing my math right, and if I'm remembering Torbrand correctly. If red source you control would deal damage to an opponent or permanent opponent controls, deals. Okay, so he'd only take 10. Only. Yeah, there's still a way. Ogre Arsonist. 5 mana for a 3/3. When it enters, destroy target land. You're basically paying an extra mana at that point to destroy target land. This is Avalanche Riders. 4 mana for a 2/2 with haste and echo comes in play, destroy target land. So, echo basically saved you a mana. So think of this as a 5 mana for a 2/2 with haste. 5 mana for a 3/3 when it enters, destroy target land. You're looking at an Avalanche Rider's effects? Looking at him. Not saying you should play it. I would suggest he's probably in general better. Goblin Firestarter. 1 red, sack to deal 1 damage to any target. Activate only on your turn before attackers are declared. Are you looking for another Mog Fanatic variant? This is 1 damage to any target just for sacking it. If you are, you have this. Goblin Raider. They reprinted this into Urza Saga. 2 mana for a 2/2 Goblin. Can't block. Again, there's better now. If you're looking to be aggressive, it's fine. But there's better now. Brimstone Dragon. 8 mana, 6/6, flying haste. Kali is probably not completely unhappy with it because it is a 6-power flying creature. I don't think I'd play this in most dragon decks in general. Although depending on how many dragons I'm running, if I'm just building out stuff I've got floating around and I happen to have a copy of this, it's fine. I'd rather have dragons that do something more than just be big creatures. But that being said, my Kalia deck has some angels in it, because mine's based on angels, that are there just to be big beefy angels. Goblin Warcry. Target opponent chooses a creature they control. Other creatures they control can't block this turn. Well, so if they've got 5 creatures, and you've got 5 attacking creatures, You cast this. Which one's going to be allowed to block this turn? All your others are stuck. What? All your others are stuck. It's kind of similar to Falter. Falter says creatures without flying can't block. But this doesn't restrict it to flying or not flying. So they could choose one of their flying creatures. Yeah. I think that one would be interesting. Goblin Piker. Once he'd worked out which end of the thing was sharp, he was promoted to guard duty. Yeah, this is the end that you poke people with. Yeah, 2 mana for a 2/1 Goblin Warrior. There's better. Even at 1 mana, there's better by now. You can get, what, a 1/2... Oh, I forget what it is. Goblin Tomb Raider. There's isn't there like a 1/1 first strike haste or something like that for 1 mana that you can sack and discard a card to draw a card or something like that? I forget exactly what it is, but it's recent and it's just silly. Goblin Glider. 1/1 flying can't block. Not terrible. If you're playing goblins, it's not terrible because a flying goblin is still a flying goblin. You're playing a goblin deck, you've got probably, you check your couch cushions, there's another goblin lord. Having a goblin that already has flying is kind of a big deal. Would probably play that. Speaking of goblin lords, Goblin General. 1/1. Whenever this attacks, goblin creatures you control, does not say other, get +1/+1 till end of turn. Attack trigger. So, Ishin and whatever else. B, it can be copied with, it can't just be copied, Panharmonicon. It can also be copied with other stuff like Lithoform Engine. Plus, on top of that, when Goblin General attacks, oh, can I get extra combat steps? I can, ... Yeah, this is going to end up being, like, no wonder it's, it's $7. It's around $7 a copy. Yeah, you're playing goblins. If you're playing any sort of goblin deck and have, like, ways to get extra combats or extra copies of attack triggers or anything like that, you should probably play him. Goblin Mountaineer. Hilariously, got reprinted all the way into Shards of Lara. 1 mana for a 1/1 Mountain Walk, which says if your opponent's got any mountains, they can't block this. Can't block this. Yeah. Yeah, Magus of the Moon, Blood Moon. A couple of cards like this, and this is going to turn around and say, "Hi, I'm unblockable." Yeah. Worth playing in a goblin-based strategy. Not really. It's not terrible in other strategies, but it's so much better in a goblin-based strategy because it's got the goblin type. You can pump it with other stuff. Magma Giant. When it enters, 2 damage to each creature and each player. 5/5. I would not be unhappy about, like, if I'm playing giants, I want to play this. Because they might be giants. But I'm taking a look at this guy and going, What happens if I get them back more than once? What happens if I flicker him? Well, if he comes in play and then I flicker him, he's going to end up dealing 4 damage to everything. But he himself is going to be taking 2. Because when he comes back, he will basically be at full health again and then take 2. This can be lots of fun. Goblin lore. This is again, the biggest problem with cards like this is the random discard. We ran out of this problem during Onslaught Block, I think it was, when we were talking about red. Um, you have to be willing to discard at random. If you are um actually, hilariously, come Spider-Man, there's going to be a new mechanic called Mayhem, which is kind of like a tweaked version of Madness, which I guess makes sense. Um, basically, Mayhem is basically you discard a card, and if the card with Mayhem is in your graveyard and you discarded it this turn, you can cast it from your graveyard. I think Goblin Lore wants to be in a deck that's got enough cards that don't mind hitting the graveyard. So, this goes. A good example goes back to when I was playing in Standard during Gate Crash. Gate Crash, and I'm sure I know I've told this story before. TLDR, we missed the boat on Burning Tree Emissary, I think it was. The one that comes into play, you make 2 mana. Yeah. And how far down that can chain. But my friend and I, we basically built a Boros deck that brought back stuff from the graveyard. And a lot of the stuff that died, or sorry, a lot of the stuff that we discarded, we didn't care if it ended up in the graveyard. Had like 7 or 8 big creatures that we wanted in the graveyard anyway. I ran Unburial Rites to bring stuff back from the graveyard, which wants to be in the graveyard so I can flash it back. I had Faithless Looting, which, okay, if it's in the graveyard, cool, don't care. If I'm discarding extra lands, that's fine. Like 2/3, 3/4 of the deck really didn't mind being in the graveyard. Goblin Lore, if I had access to that, would have worked really well in a deck like that. But it's hard to make. It's hard to come up with a deck that doesn't mind so much. You a lot of the time you're just gonna be spinning the wheel and assuming that like out of the 3 cards at random that you're gonna be discarding, one is like, yeah, okay, fine. One is like, could be worse, and the third one's gonna be like, oh no, I discard that. However, I will point out, if your hand is empty apart from Goblin Lore when you cast it, you draw 4, you discard 3 at random. You get to keep one of the 4 cards. Can you build around that? You don't know what 3 they're going to be. You don't know which of the 4 cards you're keeping. But you build your deck in such a way that for the most part you just don't care. Also, you've got cards like Library of Length that let you discard them back to the top of your library. then again you've got cards that have got madness and flashback and other mechanics that want you to discard them anyway. So it's doable. Um, you've also got stuff with uh, Hollow One. That one, that's cheaper to cast depending on how many cards you've discarded. So yeah, again, there's ways to build around it. It just takes a little more work and a little more effort. Wildfire, a lot of people used to play cards like this back in the day. 6 mana. Each player sacks 4 lands, and that deals 4 damage to each creature. This used to see, like, cards like this used to see a fair amount of play back in the day. I am not aware of them seeing much play anymore. 6 mana, blowing up 4 lands per person. They get to choose. Assuming you're not playing with Maddocks and you're playing this fairly, everybody goes back down to, say, 2 lands. That's not an unreasonable ask. And 4 damage to each creature. Basically, the only stuff that survives is the bigger stuff. This is like half Armageddon, half Wrath of God. It's decent. And then there's a couple other variants of this. Um, it's fine. I don't think it's as good as it used to be, but it's still fine. Goblin Warstrike. I think we talked about this during the Scourge. Um, oh look, I've got 30 goblins in play. Pay red, take 30. What? Take 30. Uh, but I bought. No, take 30. You're dead. This is a finishing move. Goblin Matron. When it enters, search for a goblin card, put in your hand, and shuffle. This is a red tutor for any goblin card. Again, keep in mind, it asks for a goblin card, anything that's got all creature types, etc., etc., etc. I think it's safe for me to do it this way. Green. Man, I gotta plow through these fast. Ironhoof Ox. 5 mana for a 4/4. Can't be blocked by more than one creature. If you're blocking it, it has to be blocked by 1. That's it. 1. 1. Hilariously, if you give this thing menace, that basically turns around and says, hi, I'm unblockable. Because menace says it requires at least 2 creatures to block it. Its own abilities says it can't be blocked by more than 1 creature. So that means the only way to deal with this in combat is not blocking it. Enjoy. Norwood Warrior. 3 mana. Whenever it becomes blocked, it gains +1/+1 till end of turn. It's a 2/2 base for 3 mana. Again, I point people to cards like Jeweled Thief nowadays. Which, this is an elf warrior that now has support creature types. I think it's a cat rogue. And it's a 3/3 with Vigilance. Trample comes into play, make a treasure. This is an okay card, but Jeweled Thief has turned around and said 3 mana, you're getting a 3/3 regardless. And this is whenever it becomes blocked. Doesn't matter how many creatures block it. I wish if this said becomes blocked by a creature, I would much more strongly consider playing this. As such, nah. Wild Ox. If you are, creature type Ox, 4 mana for 3/3 with Swamp Walk. Ox sounds weird, but I wouldn't suggest Ox Tribal. What I would suggest is a deck like my 5 color deck, which I called 3 Tickets to the Zoo, please, where everything has to be a animal. The deck is got like 56 creatures in it, I think, or somewhere around there. Literally a full 50 of them are animals. They have to have a creature type that is mundane, regular animal, no classes, no undead, no. Just, and it can only have one type, if I remember correctly. It can only be like, it can be a bird, it can be a bear, it can't be a bird bear. So, sorry, no wild bears. But a deck like that, you could throw this into. And it has Swamp Walk, so the chance of it being unblockable is actually really high. Again, black and green being the 2 most commonly played colors. If you're at all concerned, you throw a copy of Urborg Tomb of Yawgmoth into your deck, and away you go. Norwood Riders, 4 mana for a 3/3, can't be blocked by more than one creature. So, can't be blocked by more than one creature, can't be blocked by more than one creature. 1 mana less, smaller by 1/1, but a better card because it's an elf. If you want an elf that's hard to block, or hard to deal with in combat, I should say, take a look at Norwood Riders. Plated Worm, 5 mana for 4/5. Um, even if you're looking at vanilla creatures, you should be able to get better than this by now. That being said, this is about the smallest I would even consider for a 5 mana creature. Smaller than this, don't play it. Norwood Archers, 4 mana for a 3/3 with reach. This is Giant Spider with its stats moved around slightly, and a more relevant creature type. Being an elf is generally more relevant than being a spider. Yeah, you want something with reach? Consider playing this. It does die to lightning bolt, unlike Giant Spider, but it can deal 3 to a creature that's in the air, which can kill more things than something that's got 2. Yeah. Worth a consideration. Barbtooth Worm, 6 mana for 6/4. This is Crawworm made easier to cast. That's literally it. Crawworm was 2 green plus 4 for a 6/4. This is 1 green plus 5. You're playing vanilla, you play this over Crawworm, but you shouldn't even be playing this. For 6 mana, you should be able to get at least a 6/6. I think you can get a 7/6, but at least a 6/6. Sylvan Yeti, 2 green plus 2 for an X4, where X is the number of cards in your hand. If you've got a way to keep your hand full, like Sylvan Library, for example, which is not as expensive as it used to be from what I recall. Okay, it's getting back up there. Recent prints, even the secret Okay. I don't know what secret layer that might be from. 2058. see if I can find. Okay. Okay. So it's just a secret lair that's celebrating um the Latino community. Well, maybe I'll just say the Latin community because Latino, Latina, and then ones that want a different suffix. Because I'm sure there's going to be some. Um, okay. Not to say it's bad by any stretch of the imagination. It is cool. Um, but yeah. So Sylvan Library, if you've got a card like that, keeping your hand full for Sylvan Yeti is pretty easy. Harmonize also does it. Um, Keen Sense and so forth. It doesn't have any sort of evasion, but that should be easy enough to deal with. You're playing green, you should be able to just check your couch cushions and find a way. Aggressive Mammoth is a good example. Aggressive Mammoth, Brawn. Um, what does the green archetype do? I want to say Hexproof. Anyway, um, yeah, and so this being, 4 mana for a 5/4 or 6/4 should be relatively easy, especially if you're playing in a deck like Simic. I mean, ask what's his name, Brewer's Kitchen, Phil over at MTG Goldfish, how big he figures Sylvan Yeti in a deck, in the kind of decks he plays could reasonably get. Yeah, it's just a vanilla creature for all intents and purposes, but it can be a really big one, really cheap. Renewing Touch. 1 green, shuffle any number of target creature cards from your graveyard into your library. I target all my creature cards. Okay. If somebody doesn't have a if somebody doesn't have Tormod's Crypt, you're getting them all back. If like I this is the kind of card that throwing them into an elf deck or any other deck that's heavy on creatures, look into it. There may be better versions, but at least look into it. Links 2/1 Forest Walk for 2 mana. Again, green being one of the 2 most commonly played colors. Maddocks, 3 power but comes down on turn 4 or 5. Links can come down on turn 2 and start swinging then. It's up to you, and if you are just looking to get through for damage, and plus it's creature type cat. Are you playing cat tribal? Start adding on all the cat tribal shenanigans. I cannot remember. I cannot remember the name of him. It's like Aheo or something like that. Is commander type equal cat? Aravo. If he's in the command zone or on the battlefield, okay. Another target cat you control gets +3/+3 till end of turn. Okay, then Lynx could be attacking as a 5/4 forest walk. You're getting through. Assuming people don't blow it up, and then they gotta blow up everything. Harmony of Nature. Um, 3 mana, tap any number of untapped creatures you control. Gain 4 life for each creature tapped this way. So, its reminder text says tapped creatures can't block, which normally would be true. Normally. This one? Nope. That one. Is it Masako? I want to say it's Masako the Humorless, I'm thinking of. Because every so often, yeah, Masako the Humorless. One white plus two for a human advisor. She's a 2/1 with flash. Legendary, obviously, with a name like that. Tap creatures you control may block as though they were untapped. What? So, A, you can have a bunch of creatures with vigilance, and then after combat, tap them down through harmony to gain a bunch of life. And then play an effect like Vitalize to untap them all. Or have somebody like Seedborn Muse or Patron of the Orochi to just turn around and untap them. 2, you can let them stay tapped and play with an effect like Masako the Humorless, who might be the only one that does that. And go, hey, by the way, I'm blocking anyway. Wait, what? I'm blocking anyway. My tapped creatures can block. Oh, crap. Yeah. Lola into false sense of security. Cool, you're open. No, I'm not. Block, 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 block. Kill all your creatures. Oh. Yeah. This, also, I will point out, this will be a single spell that is going to gain you, not unreasonably, let's say 12 life. Because tapping 3 creatures is not an unreasonable ask. If you're looking to, like, again, this is one of those cards that you want to gain a bunch of life in one shot. That is why you play this. You play this because you're running cards like Bolas' Citadel, and like I mentioned Will of Lost Dreams before. Bolas' Citadel is the kind of card where you want to gain a bunch of life at once. You don't really want small triggers for that. You want like a bunch of life at a time. Harmony of Nature fits that kind of deck. Sylvan Basilisk. When this becomes blocked by a creature, destroy that creature. Throw lure on this. Oh my god. Let's go back to the original Thicket Basilisk. When this creature blocks or becomes blocked by a non-wall creature, because that was relevant at that point, the Portal sets I don't believe had any walls. Maybe a couple, but not enough to worry about. Destroy that creature at the end of combat. When this creature blocks or becomes blocked by a creature, destroy that creature at the end of combat. When this becomes blocked by a creature, so this has to attack, the other one allowed either direction, destroy that creature. Same size, same cost, half the restriction, but destroy it now. When it becomes blocked by a creature, throw lure on this, attack. Everything has to block this, everything dies. You want to just... You want to go Creature Sweeper? You play Sylvan Basilisk. I might actually throw this into Dose and the Falling Leaf as a Creature Sweeper thing. Salvage. Put target card from your graveyard on top of your library. This is Reclaim and I forget what the other one is called that costs Phyrexian mana. I wanted to say Nourish, but that's the life gain spell. 1 mana. Any card from your graveyard back on top of your deck. If you're looking at playing those card, if you're looking at playing those, having another salvage, having another reclaim effect is never bad. Norwood Ranger, 1/2 for 1. Nothing special, nothing fancy. Common. If you want if you want like an ultra cheap efficient elf that's just there to be a body, it's fine. Razorclaw Bear. Whenever it becomes blocked, gets +2/+2 till end of turn. So this has to be attacking. 1 Razorclaw is 3 bears too many. Yeah, I can see this. Try and get multiple combat steps if you can. And then when it starts getting really big, and because your opponent just keeps jump blocking it with like 1/1s or whatever, because that +2/+2 will stack. If you get like 5 combat steps, now it's got +10/+10. Now you go, oh, by the way, now it has trample. Yeah, have fun with that. Lone Wolf. This is the kind of card I was talking about earlier. That's the counter direction of what you normally expect from that red giant. I think it was a giant. Yeah, Cunning Giant. 2/2 that can assign its combat damage as though it weren't blocked. Cool, you're blocking me? Cool, you're taking the damage anyway. Wait, what? Yeah. Deathcoil Worm. Same thing. It's an 8 mana 7/6 with the same ability. Norwood Priestess. The most expensive card in the set. 4 mana for 1/1. Tap to put a green creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. Activate only during your turn before you declare attackers. I mean, if your creatures have haste, or the creature you're dropping has haste, have fun. That's all I gotta say there. Golden Bear, 4 mana for 4/3. Huh. The Elvish Scout was scrupulous about the truth. She told the traders that gold lay nearby. The card is called Golden Bear. Didn't say what kind of gold. Yeah, it's fine. If you're playing Bear Tribal, you might have to, but play this guy first by a long shot. 4 mana for 3/3 with Island Walk. Chances are somebody at the table is playing blue. It's not an unreasonable ask that somebody at the table is playing blue. Tree Monkey, a 1/1 with reach for 1. It's not a 1/1 flyer, so you're not getting Scrib Sprites, but this is the next best thing when you're looking at green. Green generally gets reach instead of flying. When it gets flying, it's because everyone gets flying because there's dragons in the set, for example. Tarkir Dragonstorm is going to give a decent amount of flyers because there's a lot of dragons, for example. Yeah, still quite an acceptable card if you need low drops. I end up cutting a bunch of 1 and 2 drop creatures from my lists because they don't do enough. When I am having to play them, it's because of a deck like... Wrong one. The drawback of having so many decks, like Lateral Elves, because, while you're playing Elves, you want a bunch of stuff that comes into play early and taps for extra mana, so you can get bigger stuff out, and then attack with them, whole hog later. Bear Cub, it took till the list to get its first non-portal printing. It took till Foundations to get its first in a normal set printing. It's just a 2-2 for 2. That's all it is. It's just a 2-2 for 2. It's just adorable. If you're playing Bear Tribal, you're probably playing it. And that's it. And it is. I've been streaming for about 6 hours, minus a hiccup. I think I'm calling it for tonight. Hopefully next week I get to do Portal 3 Kingdoms, which should be a lot more interesting. Hopefully get through it a lot sooner. But that being said, I'm going to call it for the night. I'm going to try and upload these. I'm going to try and upload this and the previous one on YouTube properly soon. That being said, yeah. See you guys next week. Pasta la pizza, everyone. Adios. Bye.